and Pastor Sandy, we familiar with. Also, too, I have such a connection with some of the folks that are sitting here today, Pastor Bob, and I used to call him Mr. and Mrs. Banasudo. I taught two of their kids, Josh. Josh was my student. I think I taught him both seventh and eighth grade at Covenant Academy, and also Stephanie. I want to apologize to Stephanie if Stephanie is here because that was my first year of teaching. I was not a good teacher, I will tell you that. and after when Josh came along a few years later, I gotten better as a teacher. But then after I left Covenant and taught 11 years at a suburban school district, or I say kind of like a rural school district for 11 years as a high school, middle school science teacher, I had just enjoyed every minute of it. And now I work in Buffalo Public Schools as a principal of one of the schools there and see what God will do, as I move, acting in that role. So thank you so much again for inviting me. My husband is here, Rob. Been married 35 years. 36, 36. And then I also have a friend that we went to India on our mission trip with our church, Laura Barkovitz. I known her over 30 years, ever since I came to the States. So as Pastor Bob or Lynn shared, that I came, early 1990 here into this area, ever since I've been in their church. Our church used to be on 17th Avenue, North Tonawanda, called Community Christian Church. And it was started by Pastor Ted. Ted Cadwalder happened to be my brother-in-law and Rob's sister's husband. And so we've been in that church for a long time, and then we had another pastor after Pastor Ted retired. And then we had Pastor Al. Pastor Al was actually involved with Pastor McKenna, and I think they came every Wednesday for the prayer. So yes, and then after that, Pastor Al left, and then we have right now Pastor Justin and Jessica since 2013, I believe. And so I've been under all three pastors at Community Christian Church. So now it's called Vanguard. So I just thank the Lord for all this time that given me really to be part of the ministry here in U.S. And I was raised, like Lynn already mentioned, that I was raised in, born and raised in India in a very strong Christian family. My grandparents, parents, both very much so involved and served as elders and board of elders and whatever, and preached, gospel there. And India, I just want to give you a little bit of an idea about the India. Thank you so much. India, as you guys know, it's almost 95, 96% of population is Christians. Right now, it is the most populous nation in the world. We actually surpassed China in 2022, I believe. So we have about 1.6 billion people in India. And of that, about 22 to 23 million people, which is amount to be about 2.2, 2.3% of them are Christians. And that happened to be the third largest group of people or race or whatever you want to call it, a religion in India. So I think the second one must be the Muslims. So, or Islam religion. So that's India. And I just want to give you a little bit of an idea. It is truly a privilege. I know I don't see Pastor Pat McKinnon, who had a connection with Mom. I just want to give you a little bit of, I don't know all the details, actually, to be honest with you. All I know is Church, Fair Havens Church helping, I believe since 2012 or 2014, I'm not quite sure, regularly. So I want to thank you, Pastor Bob, and the elders here, and the leadership, and also all of you for being a partner with New Hope India, New Hope Ministries in India. So I just want to give you a little bit of an idea how that got started. Again, born and raised in the family with a strong belief system, and my parents were Pentecostal. We don't know anything other than that. Full gospel Pentecostal church. So I was born and raised in. My grandparents were the same thing. So having that kind of heritage is very important, and what grounds me to this day, in what I do, whether it's at home or at work or as I'm serving, and I come in contact with people no matter where I go. So that's truly an honor. to represent the Lord, So, so thank you. New Hope, my parents naturally started helping a lot of churches. Dad happened to be in a very influential role as a Christian, which who has less than 2%, about 2% Christians. For him to be in that position, it was really a God thing, absolutely a God thing. And he did have his PhD in education, and that's also a very miracle, for a Christian to be at that high level education. So having that influence, Dad recognized he was able to actually establish churches. Because usually when in India, when you want to build a church, there's all kinds of red tape. They don't normally just readily approve your plans to build a church. So having influence over over an area in education, Indians, one thing they know, one thing they do is they really put education as one of the top priorities for their kids. They would sell everything and send the kids to school. That's how important it is. And that's what really one of the things helping India to prosper in a way. It's one of the countries that produces more amount of engineers and doctors in the world. So that's their top priority, one of the top priority for them. So Dad being in the education field, being an educational minister for the entire province, when they saw his name, they would not put as much of red tape, to approve site, but for buying site or building a building approval. So around 27 churches he established, and he was never really a pastor, but really worked in there. Eventually he earned, went to on his own college and able to get his reverend, pastoral degree, but really never worked as a pastor entire his life. So that's Dad, and starts supporting a lot of people, and he would start another one, would start another one. So that's the legacy that I have. And then Mom came along after my dad passed away unexpectedly, which was really, really hard for us to take. Was a very influential man in the community, especially in the Christian community. So after he passed away, Mom, unexpectedly, Mom kind of picked up. But she has her own bent in serving the women. She was, for some reason, she lost her dad when she was in 9th grade. So her mom was a widow for quite a while, all her adult age and all of that. So my mom was a public school teacher for 30 some years. And she, for some reason, had that heart towards the widows and started helping the widows just from her. Nobody helped. My dad or mom, they had no help from anybody. Just as a family, they wanted to support, they wanted to start that kind of help for people. So that's what she did. I remember Sundays growing up, people from villages would come to the town where we go to church, and they would just walk, from the village. I don't know how many miles, I can't even tell you. Walk. It would take a long time. They would come Saturday evening, stay at our house. In the morning, they get up and shower just like we do, and then go to church, and then after lunch, they would walk back home. So that's the kind of thing that I lived with. So I am grateful for how our parents set that standard for serving the Lord in any capacity you can. So when I say, and I put this something like the heading as a legacy, and that's what I'm talking about, a generational legacy. That I come from a family of 8. My dad was the only child. They had a hard time to have a kid. My dad was the only child. My mom's side, my mom and her sister, which is like 13 years apart from each other. My mom, the youngest one. Those are the only two for that side of the family. My both sets of grandparents were farmers. So usually they used to have a lot of kids, but my dad's, my grandparents happened to be the only one child, one side, and then 2 on the other side. So when I talk about the generational legacy for this New Hope ministry, it's not just our own family, but also the generational pastors that's been part of that. Like even in our community Christian church, for example, is the legacy that I'm talking about. All 3 pastors involved with the ministry and wanted to support on their own, And now you guys are the same thing. I count you guys as one of the legacy. I mean, it's just Pastor Pat. I have no idea how they're connected, but Mom happened to be connected with one of the wonderful lady from church, who was instrumental in starting up the church with Pastor Ted in North Tonawanda, Ginny Pushak. Maybe some of you know. Yeah, Ginny Pushak. Ginny Pushak, always with the prayer. Mom and her got along just fine because they had same, you know, a love for the Lord and especially love for prayer. You know, they were both are prayer warriors. So mom, when she came to visit, Ginny would take her everywhere, wherever there's a prayer meeting that she was involved in. And the Fair Havens was one of the churches they went to prayer. So mom would drop everything. If Ginny says, I'm coming to pick you up for prayer, she goes, I'm there. So she would drop everything and go. And that's how she came here on a Wednesday morning. Apparently, mom and Ginny were sitting in the back, the way I heard. I don't know how accurate the story is. But Pastor Pat McKinnon felt something about my mom when she met, and she felt that God doing something through her in India and wanted to be part of it and started to supporting her. And that was how, your church, Fairhaven, started supporting New Hope Ministries. And I thank the pastors and elders that are here been supporting that as well. Now, Pastor Bob. So thank you. I want to personally thank you on behalf of New Hope pastors. New Hope is connected to or actually serves and supports 9 pastors monthly. And also a bunch of widows, but 10 widows receive support every month as well, along with all the other events that I will share with you as I go through that. But that's the legacy of New Hope Ministries. Again, to this day, we really don't, I'm almost uncomfortable to ask people for anything to support India. Because my parents and grandparents did not start the ministry because somebody was helping them. They did on their own. And even after dad passed away, the pension went to the New Hope Ministry to support the pastors because that was his heart. My mom felt that's what she wanted to put that money towards. So that's how we support the pastors. So in the States, it's Fair Havens and Vanguard are the only churches that supports New Hope. That's it. And then we, as a family, I have 2 siblings here. One lives in New Jersey, my youngest sister, and then my brother in Delaware. We all, regularly monthly support, along with some of the friends, and went to India and seen the ministry and part of their ministry, including, Laura Barkowitz, my friend here. So thank you for being here today. I appreciate that. So that's the start of the New Hope Ministry. Just want to go through. I'm not sure where I'm at. So, yeah, India. Just to let you guys know, even how the Christianity got started, they talk about, where there is a historical data, historical records, not only just the public historical records, the history records, but also in Christianity, Christian records, especially Catholic Church records, shows that there is a strong evidence, and really, that's how the belief is that St. Thomas, one of the disciples, went to India around 52 AD after he actually ministering for quite a while in 30, 40 AD, between that time and obviously after that, in Turkey. And then eventually went to most southern western state in India called Kerala. And from there, he actually, traveled up north towards my state, Andhra Pradesh. And then between Kerala and Andhra Pradesh is a state called Tamil Nadu, which is Madras or Chennai is one of the main city. And that's where actually he ended up dying. Right now there's a St. Thomas Basilica, which my husband and I visited there when he first came, one of the first trips that he had. So Disciple Thomas went to India, and I don't know whether I know there was Jews, Christian Jews before that called Malabar Jews. So he actually went to preach the gospel to the Christian Malabar Jews. That's how the story goes with St. Thomas. And he established a bunch of churches, and that's how Christianity started. In my family, we have no knowledge of any other religion in my family, in my generation, except Christianity, as far as we can go back. So that's another thing too, which is phenomenal. I'm proud of being part of that. So that's how Christianity got started. But then, of course, later on, a lot of missionaries, went to India, Anglican missionaries, Methodist, Calvinists, a lot of other groups went to preach the gospel to India, which is good. India is, though, right now in a very critical moment, in history with the type of government that we have in place. So that's been a very hard thing for Christians to deal with lately, and I will go over that a little bit later on. But that's the legacy that I am coming with. Growing up in India, my parents taught us one thing, especially my dad, and we finish always that scripture in Matthew, talking about seek first his kingdom and his righteousness, and everything will be added unto you. And as a child, especially I would hear my oldest brother would, finish that with sarcastically, okay, dad, kind of thing. But it is very true. It rings true to my spirit every single day. If we put God first in our lives, everything will be added unto us. Being faithful and serving the Lord. And that's one thing that I've not only seen in my own families, but in my own life and my kids' life. So I want to encourage you. I'm sure you're all doing that. That's very important. And teaching our generations is very important too. And you guys know, being in education, that's something that I could, really live my Christian life in that, bringing that to and showing the love of God to the kids that I interact with. So that's really my passion when I am working in schools. So having said that, yeah, so dad started and really quite a few things he did, not only preaching the gospel. He retired and only had 3-4 months before he passed away. One of his desire was, as soon as he retired, he would go on a bicycle to every little village around where we lived in a small town, that he wanted to preach the gospel until he died. That was his goal. And he did that for the short months he lived and established one of the churches called in a nearby village called Harispat. And that's how they really started the churches. Currently, we support nine pastors and 10 widows on a regular basis. And then also all the churches, very, very tiny. If you look at the churches, type of churches, I know maybe our sister can talk to you guys. They're very, very small, tiny churches. And most of them have thatch roof. Sometimes you have the tiles. And then we are trying to renovate those churches now. My parents kind of established those churches, buying small pieces of land. Small land would be like, right now, one of the churches we're trying to rebuild, it sits on what they call 1/10 or of an acre, which is like 1 cent, they say. That is about how many yards? I don't know. But very, very small church. But we want to buy a little piece. God really directed us because we just feel very strongly about that. That's one of the original churches, and that's the only church in that village that exists to this day. We started that almost 30 years ago. Right after Dad passed away, my mom, actually built that. Before that, when Dad was still alive, he was gathering people into a house. And then so because of, after he passed away, Mom wanted to make sure that there is this place for people to meet. And that's how the church got started. To this day, the same thing with the little plaque in my honor of my dad's name that you will see. And we want to really rebuild the church by buying even a small piece of another piece of land right next to it. So that's our immediate plan that we have. But we support regularly. When I say support, we don't necessarily have enough income to support their entire salary, but we supplement that. But New Hope been they really connected to New Hope in such a way. It's not necessarily even for the pastors. If I tell you how much money they have, you would be amazed that they even exist. So very, very minimal. Barely. The most of the pastors, not only they pastor the churches, sometimes more than one church, but also they have side work, including pulling rickshaws, so that they can earn money to support their families. So they work hard to do that. And that's why, and they tell us all the time when we go to India not to give up on them. So even though we don't have a lot of money to really, provide them full income, but just connected to New Hope is what they want. So right now we have 9 pastors. We used to have 10. Few months ago, one of the pastors died out of old age and he had kidney issues. But then, so now we have 9, but 2 more pastors want to join. So hopefully we can add them as well. So that's what we do. And also we have a annual, and our church is very much involved with that annual gathering of all the churches with a huge celebration around Christmas time, and we give clothing. Every person for this church I'm talking about, Harris Pat Church, they have 120 families live there, and and all of them are Hindus. 20 to 30 families came to the Lord, with and connected to the church. But the rest of them are all also invited every year for that celebration. They all come and get the clothing and eat there, but most of them really doesn't want to necessarily make that leap to publicly identify themselves with, by baptism and all of that kind of stuff, because it's a public event, baptism in India, which is glorious, actually. The way, if I tell you about that, really fun. But they don't do that. But they always ask for prayer, come for any event the church is doing. So it's kind of like a light, and a source of comfort for them. So, and when mom built that church, there was not even a road there. That's the kind of village that they had. They put actually one of the big log for mom to walk, because it's actually right next to the Bay of Bengal, water everywhere all the time, and put a log where she had to walk on the log to see this spot where they're going to build the church. That's the kind of church, that area they build the church in. So we're just are privileged with knowing that. So that's what we do. And also too, a lot of times whenever there is any kind of disaster, like a cyclone, we call them hurricanes here, but frequently they have cyclones, especially living right next to Bay of Bengal. So those times and other, flooding, that type of incidents, we always support, our churches and people that are connected to our churches. So that's funerals, marriages, those are another thing that we support as well with the New Hope Ministries. And let's going on to next thing. Sorry, I want to do one of the churches. I want to say slide. If you can look at the slide 10, I believe. We just recently finished last year a new church construction. Again, one of the small churches that one, yeah. That churches look like that. Most of the buildings that look like this, a lot of them are actually, this is actually have at least a brick wall that you could see, but most of them are that size or smaller. And then we actually built a church that looked like the other pictures. And that's complete. We did not ask a single family, including my own church. This was strictly built over 3 years from my family. It cost us about 25,000 American, and that's what we did, because we really felt that the church was sinking, and we had to bring in a lot of dirt to build that up. So we want to do the same thing for the Harris Pat Church, which I will show you the picture of. I think they already probably passed that picture. That's on slide. Let's see. Yeah, the slide 7. There is a church. If you could go back to it for a minute, that one. See that church? That was the original church with a little front. They have a temporary one. We want to rebuild our church. That's the immediate future plan of our New Hope Ministries in India. And we were going to put tiles on the roof to cut the cost, but the pastor, this is the only church, by the way. There's only 2 things: worship, one temple, one church. And this church is really has a huge impact in that community. So we want to build, when this built to a better place, it could be actually a safe haven during a cyclone, or we call them cyclones, during hurricane as well, just like the other one. That's how the people, it's interesting, they're Hindus, but they come anyways to churches. So even though they don't profess it, they know there's a God named Jesus, and that they could come to him for healing. And some people, the bravest people, make that change. But right now, in the last few years, about 5 to 6 years, and I should say unfortunately, but he won again. So there's going to be at least another 3 to 5 years, this particular president or a prime minister there, but giving such a hard time for Christians. Very difficult, making it difficult for mission trips, making it difficult for even going to support India. So that's where we're at, very, very critical moment. But think about the harvest, having 1.6 billion. I don't think God will forget about India. No matter who's helping, who's not helping, God will not forget. I strongly believe in that. So that's the church we want to rebuild, immediate future plans. And what else I have there? If you can go back to number 9, slide number 9 or 10, please, with it says, by the way, that slide you're showing, I'm going to go with that. A lot of pastors that you could see, except Pastor Al, everybody else is there. Pastor Ted, he has a really such a heart for India, but I know I'm thinking he made many, many trips. I don't even know how many trips that he made to India. He's really connected to the pastors there. And the pastors love him, even though they don't necessarily speak fully English, but they understand Pastor Ted, because of his heart. They just get so excited about it because he equips them. He builds them up. He, pours into them and they see it. And when he goes, he does 3 meetings a day, and which is very, very difficult. And then he stays until 1 or 2 o'clock in the morning praying for them and ministering. And we did the same thing, and that's usually what it is. Right now, the outdoor tent meetings we used to have are banned. We cannot do that. So if we go, we have a team planning on going in December from Vanguard under the leadership of Pastor Justin and Jessica. And we are thinking that we cannot have, they already told us we cannot have the outdoor meetings like we did last time in 2014, 15. But we will probably end up doing the ministry, getting the pastors into your house. My mom has a nice house. I have an apartment. We're going to gather them there and pour into them. Pastors, usually lots and lots of pastors come, and about 100, 150 pastors, and the women. So we're going to get them all in and want to really equip them. So it would be a consultation, would be equipping the pastors and leaders of the churches in India. So, and they need it because we haven't been there for a while. So if any one of you interested in going to India, New Hope will be, will be happy and glad to have you guys if anybody wants to go. So just want to pass that invitation to all of you. All right, you can talk to your leadership and let us know so we can arrange that. So you guys can see Pastor Justin, Jessica ministering, and mom on the first top right or left, I should say, is my mom with a few pastors that she started with, and my sister right now is kind of like overseeing that. But Pastor John, who has been with us, mom actually married him with his, to his wife because he couldn't even afford to get married. So my mom paid for his marriage and has one son who is doing engineering in engineering college, and he can probably help his parents quite a bit. So that's how all the things get started there. Other people helping each other. So, and you see Pastor Ted ministering to a whole bunch of pastors, and it's a huge ministry there with that. And Pastor Gail, Pastor Terry, Gail, Sister Gail was one of them, really had a heart for missions, and she used to go to India all the time as well. And Pastor Terry, one of the lady that you see with Pastor Justin, and I'm the little one there, and one of the, so it's really, when you go to India, they welcome you because they value what you carry and what people carry into ministers. So they take that as a privilege and spend time with you and really get everything that you have to offer. So, which is really good, fills you up. So that is the New Hope Ministries. So I just wanted at this point to call our sister to Miss Barkowitz, to come and share her experience a little bit going to India on a mission trip.
Thank you, Hadassa. Good morning. I'm really happy to be here. I'm honored that Hadassa had asked me to speak. And I just want to touch on that invitation. So you don't have to be qualified. You just have to be available. Just like the Lord said, he calls those who are available, not those who have special giftings. And yes, he does call special giftings. But I'm just going to talk a little bit about my experience. Back in summer of 2014, we started discussing having this mission trip. And I knew I had to be a part of it. I didn't know what I could bring to the team, So we would get together and start talking and planning. And for me at the time, I was really interested in dance ministry, flagging, and I knew in order to make an impact, you really need the Lord's anointing. And I never felt qualified. I don't have a dance background, but I knew I wanted to minister that way. So I spent time in prayer. I'm literally on my knees crying because I wanted to have something to give to these people. So one day my daughter and I were just shopping. She wanted to get some fabrics when Joann Fabrics was open. And I saw this beautiful teal fabric. Now, I didn't know where that was, what it was going to be. I just knew I had to buy it. So I bought 3 yards. And during our planning team, I'm showing everybody this beautiful fabric. And it was Pastor Jessica who suggested that, could we make it into flags? And I brought a set that I had made previously. So these are, if you can picture teal, these are what the flags look like. And there was enough fabric to make 8 flags. And I'll tell you more about that later. So as we're planning, like Hadassa had shared, her mom had passed away about a month before we were to go. And we had to decide, are we going? What should we do? And all of our hearts, our team members felt we needed to go. We needed to comfort these people because Hadassa's mom, Lavina, was such a big part of their life. She was their cheerleader. She was their support whenever these, the widows and even the pastors and their families. She was such a support and an encourager. So we knew our mission was to be there to bring comfort. And the color green, teal, turquoise, those colors have meaning, which is new life, new beginning, healing, sanctification, river of God. So it just seems like it just was starting to come together. And at the time, there were 8 churches. And at the end of our trip, and this was not planned. I just feel like the Lord you give your plans to the Lord, and He makes them to succeed as He has purposed. So at the time, there were 8 churches, and towards the end of the mission trip, I just knew we were to give each church a flag in remembrance of this trip for us and in remembrance that God does bring comfort to His people, just as you and I have all experienced in one form or another. So on the road, our first night, we we traveled a day and a half to get there, and then another 6 hours by bus to get to Andhra Pradesh. And so it was kind of a whirlwind thing. I didn't really know what to expect. I'm, inside nervous about being in a foreign country, but let me tell you, the India people have this gift of hospitality, and the food is great. I couldn't believe how it can be hot, but it was wonderful. And wherever we went, there was such hospitality. They wanted to feed us. You think you're going to give, you're going to be out there to help, but it seems like the Lord has His own purposes and He accomplishes them. And you get blessed more than you think you're going to be a blessing. Keep that in mind. So if you don't feel qualified, but you have a heart to even see what the Lord can do through you, I would encourage you. Speak with Hadassa, or even consider another mission trip wherever that opening is, but bathed in prayer, it will be successful on God's terms. So keep that in mind. So back to our first night. We greeted the new year in a church service. I was able to demonstrate what I did with my flagging. So I had the the person who's playing the piano, and I'm waving my flags and I'm dancing, and I let one go accidentally, and Hadassa's brother picked it up and he's waving it. And when I ended it, I didn't expect the response. It was overwhelming. And I was in awe of what God had done, because in the natural, as you can see, I'm just an ordinary person, but the Lord took what I wanted to give and he added to it more than I could ever imagine. And it seems like that kind of got spread through the village. And in the next night, it's like, I think someone was telling me, they're here to see your flags. So, like I said, I was in awe and I was humbled by that, because I had no idea that that can have such an impact. And it did. But back to our first night. So after, each of the team members gave their testimony or whatever they had planned. And then we spent the night, we had communion and we were praying for healing. And of course, there's a language barrier, but when we were praying, for me personally, there was a woman, she would come to me and she motioned. This was where her hurt was. So me and my team, we're praying for her, and then all of a sudden she's bursting into joy and she's so happy. So that was showing us that she was healed. And for me, I'm like, Lord, you wow. Thank you, God. We are his conduit. We are the hands and feet of Jesus. So these are things that we experienced throughout this whole trip. There was a child who was blind, and you could actually see the whites of their eyes. His blindness was healed. And of course, that was amazing. And people's ears were opened. A lot of I'd say the youth, a lot of youth wanted prayer for, of course, themselves or their family members who were going to be testing for their education. That was really big, and that is true. And because their health insurance, I don't believe they do not have health insurance. So when it comes to medical care, and if you don't have the money to pay for it up front, you don't get care. So prayer is super important. And a lot of people, because of conditions, sanitary conditions in certain villages, parasites were prevalent. So a lot of people wanted to get prayer for that so that they could earn a living. And I just want to say that we did have the tent revivals at that time. And it was done at night because the villagers would be working in the rice fields during the day. And then they would walk, most of them, to the tent meetings. And it was worship and praise. And just to cover the worship and praise, one of my scriptures that the Lord showed me is 2 Chronicles 20, verse 21 to 23, where he talks about, the worshipers went out first, praising the Lord before battles, and the Lord sent ambushes to destroy the enemy. So that's what happens when we worship and praise the Lord. We offer that sacrifice of praise, but that's what destroys the darkness of the enemy. So I just want to throw that in there. So always praise the Lord. Give thanks and praise. So at these tent meetings, there was worship and praise. We had our interpreters that would interpret what we would say to the to the people who attended. And let me tell you, it was, if you can picture a stage and then a whole field covered with cloth so people could sit on it, with floodlights. I mean, there was a multitude of people there. And we would have the message, And then afterwards, we would invite people to stay for prayer. And when most of the people stayed for prayer, we were there till about 5 in the morning some nights. But when you're on God's time, time has no relevance because it just went so quickly. And we were energized. And I am not a night person. I'm a morning person. I'm in bed by, I start winding down at 8 o'clock. Might be in, maybe I'm asleep by 9. So for me to be up in the middle of the night and be energized, that was supernatural. And I thank God for that as well. But so for our team, we would have big groups. It's kind of like, think of when Jesus fed the multitude. He had them set down in groups, and that's kind of what it was like for us. And sometimes they wanted individual prayer because of their illness or what they were personally going through or healing. But there were also those who had, like, if they wanted prayer for their education or the family's education, we could, categorize it like that, and with our interpreter. And it was so amazing to see the hunger in these people. And your heart just wants to go out to them and do what you can and be available. And I just want to say again, if you have a heart or curiosity, just ask and just come and learn and be a part of that. And the Lord will show you what your steps are to be. But planning is necessary. Passports are necessary, and certain countries have visa requirements, so don't delay. And thank you for taking the time to listen to me. God bless you.
Thank you. Yeah, I just want to close by saying a couple things, and that is, first of all, thank you so much for partnering with New Hope. Really appreciate it. It's not like for my mom, it's not the amount; it's the idea that church is coming alongside of her and to hold her up and having that strength, and that's what she looked at as a strength when people partnered with her. So I want to thank you for that. She's gone, but the ministry is going and strong. Not only we are adding more than taking it out. In fact, we're building. One of the big things that we want to do is building those churches because they're in a dire need of, either reconstruction or, major renovations. So we want to do that for the people in India. Also, one other thing I do want to say is this has really been a hard thing to think that India Christians going through that right now. We never had an issue. I mean, once in a while you hear about a missionary being killed and whatever, in one of the villages, especially up north, because there's radical Hindus. No matter which country you're talking about, I'm a U.S. citizen. No matter what country you're in, there's that very small percentage of radical belief people, right? And they do things against other religions or whatever. But this one is coming from the government, the person that's running the country. So that's what making it very difficult for Christians right now, to be able to stand, and yeah, they are trying, they're not giving up, they are going after, ministering to the people in the way that they can do. And we don't want that to be closed. I do not want that to be closed because there's a lot of harvest to do. Like I said, all our churches, by the way, New Hope churches are heavily Hindu villages. Every church that you go to, if you go there, 9 churches, 10 churches that we have, they're all nothing but mostly Hindus. And we minister to those people and bring in the gospel. So you can partner with that. One of the things that I'm talking about, the Harris Path Church, they're estimating to be about 20,000. We want to do it in a little bit, cost-effective way. $20,000. We're thinking about, we want to be able to support that building of that church by end of November. Not only buying the piece of land and starting. My sister is so gung-ho about it. She's actually an engineer. She has a job. Nobody gets paid with this except the pastors and the widows. Every penny goes towards that, She's just overseeing it because mom is gone. And she's going in August to start the church on faith with the money that we have. from the family. And we're hoping that we would be able to somehow let people know, Vanguard is one of them and you guys are the other one, and in family members and friends that are helping that to make that happen. And we want to be able to dedicate that church when we go to India, either end of this year or very beginning of the next year. We usually go last week of December. That's what we did last time. And then we spend the first week or first 10 days of January. That's our goal, the immediate plan that we have, and also our big celebration. We spend quite a bit of money on that too, because every village that we have churches, they all get invited and all get saris and clothes. That's something that we want to do. So if you want to partner with, like I said, this is a very critical moment. You can be part of that, the greater harvest that we could have with that many people in India. So think about that. Lastly, I just want to say this. More importantly, and Sister kind of mentioned to you guys, serving the Lord with wherever you're at, you know, is important, whether it's at home, at work that you're working with, just carrying the Lord with you because He lives in us, right? In the hope of glory. So taking that hope of glory everywhere we go. Mission trips. I don't know how many of you have been on mission trip. I went to Jamaica because they asked me many, many times to go to Jamaica to teach a bunch of boys, that are actually the boys' home. They don't have anybody. They literally carry them out of the streets and put them into this boys' home. I loved every minute of it. I would teach all day for 10 days, and then in the evening, I would go and paint the church building. So I loved every minute of it. When you go to missions, something about it. It does more for you than even for those people. So it doesn't matter. If you want to go to India, great, we will take you. But if you, anywhere that you get a chance, do that. And more importantly, if we can't go, most of us can't go, most of us not able to go, all of that. But even if you want to partner with, God's work, no matter what it is, who it is doing the God's work, that they're faithfully doing that, support. It doesn't matter who it is, okay? So I just want to encourage you with that. It says, last, I just want to read a couple scriptures from my heart that to close it. Let's see. Yeah, so it says Mark 10:45. It says, "For even the Son of Man came not to be served, but serve and give His life, as a ransom for many." Think about that. That's what we want to carry. 1 Peter 2:9. It says, "But you are a chosen race, chosen generation, a royal priesthood, a holy nation, a people for His own possession, that you may declare the praises of Him who called you out of the darkness into His wonderful and glorious light." And that's what we want to do it. Great mission. Remember the great mission and great commandment. Obviously, great commandment always comes before the great mission, right? Great commandment is to love the Lord your God with all your soul, with all your mind, with all your, heart. And then love your neighbors as yourself. That's our greatest commandment. Greatest mission is to go and preach the gospel so that people will know and come to the knowledge of Him, right? Those are the two things. So think about that. I just want to leave you with that. And thank you so much. It's been an honor and privilege to be here with you today. Pastor Bob, thank you so much for the time. Really appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Oh my gosh, what a legacy. And my gosh, you just enlightened us with what your work is all about. And actually, next Sunday is our Mission Sunday. So I'm going to just ask you, like, for next Sunday, if you'd like to contribute to New Hope, when we do take the offering, just mark on the offering envelope under Missions New Hope, and that money will be designated and go directly to New Hope Ministries. So I thank you for coming. I wasn't really aware of everything that you are doing, but you really just enlightened us this morning, and it's very much appreciated. And what a beautiful legacy, your family, and just the history of New Hope was very inspiring. And again, next Sunday is our Mission Sunday, so be prepared to give something towards New Hope. And again, I'll make that announcement again next Sunday to do that, and just mark on your envelope New Hope Ministries, and we'll make sure that that offering does get directly to New Hope. So I just have a couple points to make before, as you know, this is our picnic Sunday, so